So let's get into it from your perspective, who's a person who, worked on the bill, who's evaluated it, who knows all the ins and outs. What are the real highlights for you in terms of what the bill is and how it works? I mean, I think that's mostly what our audience is looking for, and getting a lot of questions about that. Like, okay, let's say I apply for the ESA and I get it. Like, what is it and how does it work?
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to start with the point that you brought up here. Yeah, there's so much misinformation on online and by this really organized groups that are just pushing a bunch of lies to get people to be afraid of what is going to be transformative policy that's going to better the educational outcomes of all our children here in Texas.
Mhm.
And a key word to always know if you're being fed misinformation is if they're using the word voucher,
Mhm.
because this is not a voucher, right? It's an education savings account. But they know that they've done so much research. They know that the idea of voucher and the idea from back from the 90s is so unpopular that they could just use that to spin an argument that's in their favor. But now getting to the actual truth of the matter, how this program will work. Well, so what makes both SB2 and HB3 unique and better than any other piece of legislation in the country is the implementation process. So most states, when they pass an ESA program, they usually within 3 months they go from the law being signed by the governor into the first students entering the program. That's a really short
Sure.
turnaround.
Yeah.
But for a program the size of Texas, which we're looking at 100,000 students, we're going to quadruple that. We're going to go out for a year-long implementation process. So the idea would be Governor Abbott signs it into law sometime this late spring, and by September 1st, the comptroller starts working on the rules and starts getting the application process online and going. Parents can apply by the fall. By the spring of the following year, they get a notification saying, "Hey, your child has been accepted into the ESA program." Based off your application, you're a general education student, you're awarded, if we're following HB3, you're awarded a little bit over $10,000 for this first year.
Mhm.
Then they could use those funds starting early summer. And this is all going to be finalized under rulemaking. But
So if
that's
I
the
hear just to
general.
recap, okay, if I hear you, if we pass it this year, then the first students using ESAs will be going into school in 2027. Is
Correct.
that correct? Okay,
Yep.
got it. All right.
For the, yes, 2020. So it'd be next year, 2026 to follow that 2026, 2027 school year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, so fall
Fall
of
of 26.
2026.
Six. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought you meant they were going to wait a year and then be able to
So
apply.
the implementation process would be from this summer up until the following summer. So
Okay.
that'd be all working out the whole application, and then
Got
the
it.
first students will go in, which is different than, like, let's take a state like Iowa, which literally in 30 or 60 days they went from law was signed into law, then first students have to get into the door within 60 days, which is for a
Right. Yeah.
program this size is
That's what worked for an
would be
Iowa
extraordinary.
size program.
Yes, yeah.
Well, and that's a good point. I mean, we've heard the lieutenant governor say at our big policy summit a couple weeks
Mhm.
ago, said that when this passes, it will be the largest launch of a school choice program in the history of the country.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, we're Texas, everything's bigger here, right?
Yeah, I really want to hit on that point. Then the second largest program launch was around 18,000 students. So we
Wow.
are, 5x that. So
Wow.
that is huge. And, as a native born Texan, we love going big here in the state, and I
We
love
love
to
being
see it.
first.
Yeah, I love to see it. We couldn't be first across the line to pass it into law, but we're going to be the
Mhm.
first in terms of size.
And then when California passes one, then they'll be no, that'll never happen.
Yeah.
So we're not in any danger of losing that stature once it passes and once it gets launched. Well, that's really smart. I think I think that's a great. I'm glad you highlighted that, because I don't think people understand that
Mhm.
this is going to be complicated. It's not the easiest thing in the world. It's easy to understand, but in terms of the mechanics, it can be complicated, and that they're not going to rush it. That they're not going to
Yeah.
rush into something.
Yeah. I guess going a little bit more deeper into how this program would work,
Yeah.
right? So we kind of talked about the application process, getting your child in. A question I hear all the time is, well, how do I select a private school? Is my school going to be covered, or is my curriculum going to be covered? So getting into those specifics. One, if going on the private school side, if you're attending a accredited private school, which if you attend, let's just say St. Mary's on the street or any other private school or classical Christian school, the odds are that is an accredited school. You will be awarded the full ESA amount of $10,000. That school would be automatically approved as a provider because they are accredited,
Mhm.
and it would just be up to the decision of that school to actually opt into the program and say yes, we want to start taking those ESA dollars. Most private schools across the state have signaled that they'd be interested in opting in right away,
Mhm.
and that would kind of be the process as far as getting new schools on board. And the same thing with the curriculum. If you're a homeschool family and most of the because we have the benefit of being 34th in the state in the country. Most of these curriculums exist in other states. We will be able to use a lot of those examples from other states to show that these are already or non-fraudulent curriculum matters, and they would be pre-approved for the program,
Right.
and you'd be able to get that covered under your ESA.
So that's it then. We're going to roll out the program, start applying next spring, I guess. You'll find out before the summer or around the summer if you get in, and then once you get in, you get to pick your school, and we're off and running.
Yeah, that's essentially it. And we cover transportation, books, materials, certain hardware as long as it's required for the course.
Mhm.
Tuition and fees is a big one. Uniforms. Yeah, the
Mhm.
House bills really got the whole. They thought of everything on that side.